Thank you very much for joining us. We've still got the numbers coming in. But friends, you have tuned into The Color of Money, Unlocking the Secrets to Generational Wealth live book launch. And I want to kind of tell you a little bit about how this came to be. I had the pleasure and the honor and privilege of working in the C-suite of the largest real estate company in the world. I'm sure legally I'm supposed to say the largest real estate franchise in the world, but I had the privilege and honor of working there under the leadership of President Marc, who has joined us tonight. During that time, I learned quite a bit more than I thought I would learn or wanted to learn, but I learned quite a bit about a lot of things, and one of those primarily being a lot about wealth building. Because what I can tell you about Keller Williams Realty is that wealth building is really the heart of most of the conversations, especially when Marc was the president. And so I learned quite a bit about a lot of things, and I was brought there to teach some classes, particularly classes about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of those classes was called The Color of Real Estate. And it was helping people understand the history of land transfer, because we believe that most people in the United States build their wealth through the acquisition of real property. We also understand that there's been some challenges and barriers in our history in preventing some people from doing that. So I was brought there to teach people about the history of land transfer and how we could do so equitably and fairly and justly, help people get into real estate so that they too could build wealth. About 2 years into that tenure, we started a podcast. And the Keller Williams podcast was called The Color of Money. And I remember exactly where I was when Daniel Dixon called and asked if I would be a co-host with them. I was standing in line at the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals conference getting a COVID test, because it was still that time and they wouldn't let you in unless you had your papers that said that you didn't have COVID. And they called and allowed me to be a host on this phenomenal podcast. Friends, if you have not yet ever listened to the Color of Money podcast, I'm quite sure after today you will. And the reason I know that you will is because what you're going to learn here today came from people who have been our guests on our podcast. We have a tagline where it's called Earn More, Learn More, and Build Wealth. And so we talk about 3 different things, 4 really, on our podcast: leadership, real estate, of course, development, and wealth building. And so with those 2 things combined, the over 40,000 people who attended the Color of Real Estate class and all this knowledge and information that we were receiving from all of the guests that joined our podcast, I put together a book. And so it's all in one wonderful thing, and it's a book. We are almost at 100 episodes of the Color of Money podcast. In fact, in a few weeks, we'll be celebrating the 100th episode. And so from that, many of the guests from our podcast are joining us tonight to talk about this. And so, friends, we're going to really deliver this content to 2 different kinds of people. Maybe you're here to help yourself. You need to put the oxygen mask on you first. You need to learn how to build some wealth. You need to learn how to build any wealth, invest in property, whatever it is that you have come here to do. You're here for you, and you're in the right place. I'm glad that you're here for you. But maybe you're person number 2, the type of person who is already in a position that maybe you can pay it forward, and you're here to help other people build wealth. I know all of our guests today our co-hosts are here for that very reason. And many of you are real estate professionals who are here because you want to help your clients build wealth, and you want to pay it forward by telling them the right things or guiding them or directing them into the way that you know they should go. And we do that through real estate. I don't know about you all, but if you've been watching the news at all, if I have never been more certain, I am certain now, no one is coming to save us. Okay, nobody. No one is coming to save us. You are in it for yourselves and not by yourselves. The wonderful thing about this is that not only are you going to hear from some phenomenal experts, great people, leaders, things of that nature, we believe in building wealth collectively, and no one succeeds alone. And so today, you're going to be joined by hundreds of other people who, just like you, are here to learn how to build wealth, here to learn how to not build wealth, not just for yourselves, but also for your families, your communities, and collectively, together, we will succeed. There is a quote from the book. I was going to read it, but as Mr. President shared with me, I believe I've been fairly ambitious in my time. We have some incredible people on here today, and I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. So some of the slides I'm going to skip by because he's right. And on top of that, not only do I have incredible people, I have some of the best speakers in the world lined up to share their knowledge with you all today. And so the fact that I thought that they would probably only talk for 10 minutes is probably a little comical. If you want to know what the quote says in the book, well, that's simple. We would just buy the book. But let me introduce who I have with you today. Also, by the way, Daniel, no one can see anybody but you all. So I just want to make sure that you know that you're on camera. I can see you. But let me introduce who we have here. Of course, my name, friends, is Julia Lachey. I am a broker, real estate broker, author, TEDx speaker, community advocate, if you will, and a number of other things. Formerly the head of inclusion and belonging for the largest real estate company in the world, the largest real estate franchise in the world. And I, as I said, had the privilege of co-hosting the Color of Money podcast with my three brothers. I call them my brothers from another mother. Not to be disrespectful to my actual brothers who are also on this call right now, but these guys are my real estate brothers. And I am beyond honored to be able to even be in the same space as them on most occasions. I'd like to introduce you to them. Mr. Emerick Peace is the operating principal and owner of Keller Williams Preferred Properties, a multi-billion-dollar residential luxury and commercial real estate sales brokerage with over 20,000 closed transactions and over 600 associates in his one brokerage. Also, the number one real estate brokerage in Prince George County and one of the largest single office brokerages on the East Coast. Definitely the largest single office Black real estate brokerage in the country. Emerick has over 30 years of real estate experience. He is a member of the board of directors and immediate past president of 100 Black Men of Prince George County. Emerick is a 6-time decorated 21-year retiree from the United States Air Force. Currently lives in Upper Marlboro with his wife of 34 years, Robin. That's Emerick. Welcome, Emerick. Thank you for being here. By the way, friends, we call him Unc. Love it, we call him Unc. Yeah,
good to meet you, Unc.
Yeah, that's
good
what we
to
call
be
him.
here.
Next, we've got Daniel Dixon, none other than my boy Daniel Dixon, friends. He is the CEO of the Dixon Group in Denver, a real estate powerhouse. Yes, he is. In just 8 years, that's really the amazing part. In just 8 years, he's helped over 1,500 families buy and sell homes worth $500 million plus. The Dixon Group is the number one real estate team in Colorado. I'm going to repeat that. The Dixon Group is the number one real estate team in the state of Colorado and the top 50 KW teams in the U.S. Daniel has founded a mortgage company, a title company, an investment business. He is also what we call an operating principal, which is a franchise owner of a Keller Williams franchise, as is Emerick, as is Bo. And what else about Daniel? Daniel's a really great guy, and you're going to hear from him shortly. And then, friends, we have Mr. Bo Menkidi. Before y'all got here, I was picking on Bo because Bo is actually an incredibly big deal, but he's always really humble in his approach. And even his bio was humble. So I beefed it up because I want y'all to know who you have in front of you here today. So I'm going to tell you what I wrote, not what his bio said. But Bo Menkidi is the founder of Menkidi Group, headquartered in Washington, D.C. As the founder and CEO of Keller Williams Properties, that's one of his companies under Menkidi Group, he leads the company with a mission to transform lives, careers, and communities through real estate. Let me tell you a little bit about his development, though. Over the past 20 years, he's invested over $390 million in emerging urban neighborhoods along the East Coast, with a pipeline of deals valued at over $1.7 billion. He's assisted over 2,000 families in purchasing their home. I mentioned that he's the CEO of KW Capital Properties as well. What that means is that Bo owns a region. I'm not going to get into all how franchises work and how it all works, but Emerick and Daniel, they own a franchise, and then they're in a region. Bo owns the region. Okay. Bo owns the region, and he's the CEO of Capital Properties. In this regional network, he has 8 brokerages with over 1,000 real estate agents that he oversees in those brokerages. Some of his developments that you may or may not have heard of, the MLK Gateway, Bond Bread with Howard. Is that the 400-unit development at Howard University? Yeah, some of those types of developments. On and on. Bo is a graduate of Harvard University. He lives in Washington, D.C. And he's been named and recognized in a whole bunch of stuff. Bo's a big deal, y'all. So welcome, Bo. And friends, the king is here. The king is here. We've got Mr. Marc King himself. The king is here. Marc King is the former president of Keller Williams Realty, the largest real estate franchise in the world. And I told Marc I was really glad he was here because I want to take a second and give him his flowers. I served as the head of inclusion and belonging at Keller Williams under Marc King's leadership at a time where it was not easy to do any of that kind of stuff. Oftentimes people know me because I speak on wealth building, particularly in historically marginalized communities, Black communities. I was there specifically to lead a social equity task force to ensure that people of color, Black people in particular, were receiving fair opportunities, equal advantage. And I'm just going to say it. I know we got a lot of people on and I don't know who's on. I wasn't really given the space to do that voluntarily. I know a lot of you are like, what are you talking about? We see you on stages all over the world. And so Mr. Marc King is now the CEO of Welcome to the Cause. And he teaches about wealth building in such a way that we all can learn something from him and actually take something and walk away. So that's who Mr. Marc King is. He's all of that and so much more. He's got a whole bunch of accolades. He's got a whole bunch of great things, but I just took the time to say what I wanted to say. And then friends, we have, I wish I probably should let her introduce herself because every time she introduces herself, I'm like, I got to do better. I just got to get that. I don't even know how to introduce, but Marky, if you don't know her, she has over 25 years marketing experience. She's a 5th generation entrepreneur, 3rd generation restaurateur, 1st generation infopreneur. I don't know if that's how you say the word, Marky, but that's what she is. Award-winning social media speaker and course author. Marky also is a real estate broker. Marky also does a lot of work with the National Association of Realtors. She was named Realtor of the Year in the state of Illinois, which is where she resides. And I want to say this about Marky as well. When I first started speaking, people always say, well, who do you want to look up to? Who do you want to be? And I was like, don't know these people who I want to be. And then I met Marky. And every time she's on a stage, I'm like, man, I got to do better. Like Marky is literally like the prototype of the world, which is why she has all the awards for being top 1% of speakers in the world, because she absolutely is, and something I aspire to be. And she has taken time to be here tonight, friends, to talk to us about being an entrepreneur or just buying real estate. Or maybe you're here because you don't own any real estate at all, and you just want to know how to get into this thing. That's what she's going to talk to us about. Yeah. And I'm glad that she's here. Thank you for being here, Marky.
Thank you.
And then friends, Doug and Atiya, if you're looking for personality, okay, we stop right now. You're like, friends, Doug, you crack me up, man. I have to tell you, if you have never seen these people, Doug and his wife, they're known as the celebrity realtors in Atlanta. So Doug has dominated the business for luxury sales, foreclosures, short sales, all of it, anything. He sold over millions of dollars in Georgia real estate. And this is the funny part. Doug is known as a hustler and left Indianapolis in 1996 and changed his life and career path. It sounds like we're in church. He has turned a new leaf. But he actually has a book called Flipping Bricks, because Doug did used to flip bricks. But this time, Doug is flipping real estate bricks. He's flipping real estate, and he's going to teach us about flipping houses. So they're the CEO, they're the celebrity realtors, because they have clients like, don't laugh at me, Doug, but I know y'all got a show coming out with Young Jock. I saw your social media yesterday. Right. Show coming out. I had to look up who he was, child. I didn't know.
Really? Radio, TV.
What did President King said? No, they said, "Oh, that's not my genre.
That's not a genre.
My genre." Yeah, I didn't.
Right.
I didn't know who. Yeah, but I'm sure you all probably know who Young Jock is. They got a new show coming out. Doug and Atiya got a new show coming out. Right. You have many other celebrity realtors that you have worked with. T.I. I know T.I. I know who T.I. is.
You know T.I.?
Yeah, I know who T.I. is. Yeah.
Okay.
Friend, that's what they do. They flip houses. They mentor people who want to flip houses. They've got some books. You got to get them. We nailed it, we're going to have you all back, because at the end of this conversation, we are going to talk about the power of family.
Right.
What I love about you all's story is you have an entire book about we nailed it. And it is really about being together.
Real estate and relationships.
Yeah, real estate and relationships. I think that's the most important thing. And so the art of flipping bricks, we know that's one of your number one sellers. And so that's who Doug is. Doug and his wife, Atiya. But here's the thing. I know you call her real estate blonde because you keep your hair blonde, right? Yeah, you call her that. But what I happen to know is it is Dr. Atiya Parson, if you will. Dr. Atiya Parson.
Right.
Educator, and has joined her husband in this because she was out there doing the good work, doing the Lord's work, teaching people what they need to know. And so thank you both for joining us tonight.
Thank you for joining us.
And then in my hometown, we got a hometown hero, Mr. Corey Wright. Corey Wright is indeed a hometown hero, friends, and he used to be a competitor. He used to own a Remax franchise with another friend of ours, Mike Spicer. But Corey started his real estate career many years ago, and like a lot of us in 2008, lost it all. Okay, all of them. Lost all the properties, filed bankruptcy, all of it. Check it all off. Me too, Corey. All of those things happened, but he is the comeback king. And I mean that in the craziest way. Corey focuses on flips as well, investment properties as well, specifically luxury flips. Corey has a company called Legacy Wealth Building, and he coaches other people how to build wealth through real estate. He, like I mentioned, he was actually the owner of Remax Metro. He sold it for probably some good money to Remax Results. And he's going to talk to us today about building wealth through real estate, using real estate as a tool for that. So thank you very much, Corey, for being here. And then Mel, we call her Mel. It's on the screen as Melissa Dorman, but Mel, friends, Mel just dropped a a TED Talk, excuse me. Mel just dropped a podcast. It is 9 days old and has almost 60-something thousand views and it's called How I Turned $500 into Six-Figure Freedom. That's what it is. She met a man at a bar and all she had in her pocket was $500. And that turned into an entire career in real estate investment for her because she does it through seller financing and creative financing. So she's going to talk to us about how to not use the bank. Yep. That's what she does. But I wanted to mention something, Mel, because just 10 years ago, you were living in a slum in Calcutta. I can never say it.
Yeah.
Say it, Mel.
Kolkata, India. Yeah.
Kolkata, India, helping over 200 women escape sex trafficking as a social worker.
Yeah.
She was doing. And she had a passion for financial education as a means of empowering people to get out of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
So that is exactly what we're going to talk about today, just differently. Right.
Yeah.
Very differently. Some of us are still in bondage, but you're going to tell us how to get out of that bondage. Even if you only have $500 today, it's possible.
That's right.
And then Anthony Kimble is going to join us as well. Anthony Kimble, friends, is a recognized leader in Baton Rouge. He is a founder and managing partner of Kimble Properties, a privately held real estate investment and development company. He was born in Baton Rouge. He went to Stanford University. He played football there, and he also played for the Miami Dolphins. Now, Anthony could live anywhere Anthony wants to live, but Anthony chooses to live in his community because he believes in reinvesting in the community and developing it in his own community. He, too, has a TED Talk called Creating Ecosystems Through Real Estate and Group Economics. Both of those you'll have to check out after this conversation. And then last but certainly not least, Lavacia's going to bring it all home for us. And believe it or not, I only just learned about this when she was on our podcast a few weeks ago about family offices. I didn't know what that even meant, but she's an expert at that. She's a managing partner of L. West Advisors. She's determined to make a meaningful impact on the financial well-being of her clients. And she's going to talk to us today. And I hope you're going to talk to us today, Lavacia, not just about building a family office, not just about wealth, but really that all boils down to the power of us being family,
Mm-hmm.
And the importance of us actually being a family. So, Lavacia, thank you so much for joining us. Friends, am I lying, or do we actually have the best lineup of all time? Is this not, this right here, what you're looking at is a $5,000 entry fee. Guaranteed. These people charge a lot of money to be on stages. I know, because I tried to hire Marc not too long ago, and I got that email like, oh, girl. Yeah. But these people charge a lot of money because they're worth it, and they got a lot of information to share with you tonight. So that's exactly what we're going to do. In our time together, we're going to give you actionable things that you can take away from these conversations. And I want to ask you a question. How can you guarantee that you will never grow your wealth bigger than it is today? Okay, let me flip the question around. How can you guarantee that you will grow your wealth bigger than it is today? And what was supposed to show up on the screen was some big flashy words that say take action, except for I forgot to add them. It's supposed to say take action. And what I mean by that is, obviously, this is a great lineup. These people are very well educated. They're here for me. They're here for you. And it's all for naught if you sit here and listen to these people and then you get off and you keep doing whatever it was you were doing before you joined this call. That's not the goal. The goal is that you will indeed take action. Even one thing that they say, sometimes you don't even understand the conversation. That won't happen today. I'll tell you that. But sometimes I don't understand the words that are coming out of Daniel's mouth. I really don't. But I'll write the words down and I'll go and ask somebody. I'll go and ask my financial advisor. Daniel told me that I'm supposed to, and then I got to spell it to him because that's how much I don't know. But I know enough to ask. So you may not know everything you need to know when you get off this call, but you will know enough to ask or to seek these people out and find out some more information. Obviously, you're here today because we are launching a book. It is called The Color of Money. And these people have joined me in this journey to get you this information. There is a book you can buy, and many of you did buy it. You did pre-order the book. There's also a package, and that's what I would prefer you buy. It comes with the book, the audio book. There's a workbook. The workbook is really good, too. I got the work. I don't know where I said it. The workbook is great. And there is a course where Daniel and Emric and Bo and I actually teach you this content in a much longer format, a 10-module format. The total value of that is $679, but not today. Not today because you showed up. Today, you can get it for a mere $499 to learn everything you need to know. But wait, there's more. Today, because you did show up, you're going to get that workbook for free. After we get off this call, everybody who joined this call is going to get the downloadable. And even if you bought nothing else, the workbook in itself gives you actionable items to move yourself forward in the real estate journey. It's free. You don't have to do anything for it. We're also going to give you the introduction and chapter 1 free audio downloads so you can maybe test out the book and see if you actually want to buy it or not. But those things are going to be offered to you today because you showed up. There is one last bonus, and I'm not going to tell you what it is until the end because I want you to stay to the end. But at the end, you're going to get a bonus. No, it is not a car. I am not Oprah. I don't have all of that, but it is close. It's close. It's a close second. Trust me on that. So that's it, friends. That's my whole commercial. Those are all the introductions. If you have questions, I've got several people monitoring the chat. Also, at the end, we'll leave some time for questions. So if you've got questions, if you don't want to forget what you said, oh, is that who it? Meet me at the club. It's going down. That's Young John. I didn't know that. Okay.
You're a little late, Joy. You're a little late.
I'm going through the chats here because I want to make sure you all got what you want. And again, stay till the end. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. Somebody is actually collecting those, and we will make sure that your questions get answered. But I'm jumping into the content. Here we go. Thanks for being here, everybody. Put on your seatbelts. You are about to get a little bit of what I get all the time, every day, working with these phenomenal, wonderful men. Friends, I announced to you Bowman, Keedy, Emric Peace, and Daniel Dixon, and I'm going to be nice to them all because we got company. Yeah. Woo-hoo. Well,
You don't do nothing to us that we don't deserve, so we can't be mad at you.
I'm glad you're here. Emric is one of my favorite people. I do call him Unc, but I will say this. In the book, oops, I didn't mean to hit that. Sorry, I hit that. In the book, in the introduction that you can get for free today, the download you'll get for free today, I do talk about how the impetus for me was when I was at a real estate conference and I met Emric and Bo. You heard me introduce Bo and say that he owns a region and 8 franchises in that region with 1,000 real estate agents. And he has a development company that has billions of dollars in development. I'm not trying to tell all your business, Bo, but I think both pushing up on billionaire status. And I don't nobody email him and ask him for money, but because he's not that kind of guy. But these guys are a big deal. But Bo and Emric were teaching, and I had never seen excellence on that level. I'd never seen anything like that. And it made it, in my mind, possible for me because I saw them. That's what representation does. And so that's what the introduction kind of starts about the first time I thought it could be. was at that conference there. So guys, thanks for joining me. Obviously on our podcast, we talk about helping people earn more, learn more, and build wealth. Talk to me a little bit about what was your moment? That was my moment. That was my moment when I was like, maybe this could be for me. What shifted your mind to think that real estate might be a tool that you could use to build some wealth?
You know what? When I was 18 years old, my wife bought me a course to a Rich Dad Poor Dad seminar for the day, and it was about buying properties, owning real estate, and wholesaling, flipping, those kind of things. And it was at that moment I realized, like, man, this is some of the most wealthiest people in the world build their wealth through real estate. And that's when I really became in love with what this industry can do for me, whether it be property management, retail sales, flipping, investing, cash flow, like whatever the thing is. This industry is so deep and it's so vast with opportunity that I realized, like, man, this is it for me.
Yeah. And you're good at it.
I'm good.
What about you, Bo Emmerich?
Yeah, I know. One of the moments that clicked for me was when I just got into real estate sales and I was starting the business and trying to do my first project, and I was able to pull home equity out of this house. And so when I was, I think I was 24 years old, I had bought my first house, and it was totally, I guess the young ones today call it a house hack, but we had 8 bedrooms and we had me and 7 random people living there trying to hope that they paid their rent so I could pay my mortgage. And it was a bit of a mess, a real world situation going on. But I'd struggled to have this house, and I thought, like, hey, owning a house is the pain in the butt. I've had to like struggle to make my mortgage payments for a couple of years. But when I started my business, I'd owned the house for now 3 years, and I got stuck when I started my business. I ran out of money. I didn't have anywhere to go. And I ended up being able to get a home equity line against that house. And it was the first time I realized that, hey, the struggle I'd had to just maintain that house for 2 to 3 years had created this opportunity to give me an asset that allowed me to start the business and propel myself forward when I didn't have anything.
Wow. Okay.
And for me, it wasn't even about wealth. It wasn't even a wealth conversation. All I knew is that I wasn't supposed to rent. Because my mom, I tell the story about my mom, she never made more than $8.75 an hour in her life, and she owned 3 properties clear and free. I thought that was amazing, and I watched her collect rent. So I said, that must be the way to go. I said, because I watch people pay her rent.
Emmerich, say that again. Your mom had made how much money?
Not more than $8.75 an hour in her entire life.
You said $8.75 an hour.
$8.07. I think she told, when I said that to her one time, she said, "Oh, you gave me a raise." But she owned 3 properties clear and free, and I saw her collect rent, and I just renting never came to mind. I never thought about it as wealth building. And I'll tell you, I'm transparent until I decided that I wanted to open up a franchise. And then I had some other properties, and I had equity in these properties. So what I did was I leveraged the property, got some additional cash, and I was like, oh, this thing really, really works. Because I was able to get cash from a property and never affect I was able to get cash from a property, open up a franchise, and it never affected my cash position as far as liquidity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized, oh, this is better than I thought. And I've been selling real estate for 10 years at the time. I caught on when that happened, when I was able to get money, never affect my cash position, didn't really affect me financially because the tenant that I had was paying the mortgage. So I realized that was it.
The interesting thing, Marc, you said you never knew any different because your mother owned the house. But for a lot of people, especially people in our community, that's not the story. There are often times where no one in their entire lineage has ever owned a home. Specifically, not because we're lazy or not for any lack of desire or anything. There were some very structural systems designed to ensure that we were not able to buy property. Things like redlining, zoning restrictions, deed restrictions, and all these things. I talk about some of those in the book, but we have a long history of not being able to have access to home ownership. So for a lot of people, they aren't first or second homeowners. They're first generation homeowners because no one ever has, they've never seen that. So oftentimes the mindset about money or the mindset about ownership or who real estate is really for isn't the mindset that you came from or started from. Talk a little bit, if you all could, about kind of how do you, if you're not from that kind of a story where if that's not your story and you didn't see anybody buy a house, how do you shift your mind into understanding that this is attainable for you and that real estate is something that everybody should engage in because it's your right and that ownership really is for all of us? How do you shift that mindset if that's something you didn't grow up seeing?
I mean, I'll tackle that first. I think that ultimately in our lived experiences where we experience subtle exclusion, sometimes not so subtle blockages to opportunity, you can start to tell yourself a story that says, hey, the world's about what I can't get versus what I can get. And I think the most dangerous thing that comes from that experience is the mindset that focuses on the lack versus that focuses on the abundance of what could be. And I think that we are oftentimes trained, programmed, we listen to, we have to acknowledge in our own communities where something we've been excluded for something. So the conversation becomes about exclusion rather than about participation. It becomes about what we don't have versus what we do have. And no matter where, I always say, no matter where you came from, no matter where you are, you have a community around you. You have people that supported you. There are resources in your house, even if your family is poor, right? There are things that you can build from. And I think sometimes because we've been so pushed back or excluded from things, the attention and the mindset goes to the lack. That doesn't mean it's not there, but to actually build something and create something, we have to focus on what is there, the assets that do exist, and the ways in which we can grow them.
You know, Bo, you said something, and I believe this is a word that we misuse in our community, the word poor.
That's right.
Poor is a state of mind. Broke is a state of your bank account. And a lot of times in our communities, we're broke. We're not poor. We're broke. We just don't have money. And some of us, I'm pretty sure I'm speaking to the choir in a lot of places, we didn't even know we didn't have money. We were just happy playing with 2 rocks, and we had fun with that. Not Marquis, but, some of us other ones, we were just happy playing with 2 rocks, and that was fun. And we didn't know that we didn't have money. We didn't know we were broke. And I say that story about my mom, but my mom was the first first homeowner in her family. And I don't know where it came from. It's just that ingenuity, that spirit of saying, hey, I'm broke, I'm not poor. I think that's what is more of that conversation that we have to have with ourselves. Because a lot of us, we are not poor, we're broke.
Yeah, we were both.
Yeah.
I grew up with a single mother of 3 kids that didn't learn these things. And growing up in Orange County, California, like the barrier of entry to be able to afford a home was also very, very unattainable. So it wasn't just a mindset. It was also a sense of we couldn't get there no matter what it was. But that also created the drive of, I want something different. Like the main reason we bought our first house, y'all will laugh about this, but the main reason we bought our first house out here in Colorado was because of Obama's tax credit. And we got that $8,900 or whatever it was within a week or 2 of it, the program ending. That was the real main factor. We bought a HUD home, $100 down, like the whole 203K, like the whole thing, and got a $9,000 bonus for being able to do it. If it wasn't for that, I don't know that we would have been as driven to actually acquire real estate. And then that made us open our eyes to, oh, wow, this house doubled in 3 years. Oh, wow, we can sell that house and use that as a down payment. And then the education came behind that. But I think that, like, it's for a lot of people out there right now, we're not only dealing with the mindset of what is achievable, we're also dealing with the challenge of what is attainable, because real estate and the cost of homeownership has grown significantly over the last decade.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's all y'all going to get of this conversation. If you want to hear more, You're going to have to tune in because you know what? Mr. President was right. I was pretty ambitious with this time. We're already over time. So to catch up for time, I'm going to move on. But friends, this is the conversations we have every single week. Every time we go to a conference and we do a podcast, people say, oh my gosh, where can I hear more? And you can hear more every single Wednesday. We got a new episode that drops on the Color of Money podcast every single Wednesday. So do tune in more because we have a lot of deep conversations that you absolutely need to know. And again, all of the guests you're going to hear from today have been guests on the podcast. You can always go back and listen to those as well. When we talk about mindset, I'll take you all the way back to I believe it was episode 1 or 2. If you want to go all the way back to episode 1 or 2, that was that conversation. So you can pick that part up from there. Now, friends, I want to introduce you again to Mr. King himself, President Marc King. I want to say one other thing, and I probably shouldn't because again, we've got 260 people on here, and one of them might tell on me, and it's probably not the right thing to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I always call you Mr. President because I have been with Keller Williams for 20 years, and you are hands down the best president Keller Williams has ever had. And I say it with my chest out. I said it 10 toes. Yeah.
That is so kind of you. And standing on shoulders of giants. I was going to say, I wanted to be part of this podcast, but I saw what it did to all the other guys' hair. Rick hair on the podcast. By the way, I thought we were supposed to wear green. It's called the Color of Money. I don't know what you guys did.
You did right, Marc. You did right. Yep. There you go. Yeah.
Do some makeup. We'll make up some time. I may need to share my screen, but I'm going to start with, if you've been to one of my courses or see me talk at all, I talk a lot about personal accountability. And so Julie is absolutely right. There are reasons why certain communities in our country don't have the same level of wealth. The number one correlative to wealth in the United States is home ownership. So if you study the Asian community, which has the most net worth, they have 71% home ownership. If you study the white community, 62%, Latino, 52%, and the Black community is 44%. So if you want to help your community, it's help through home ownership. I believe we are in the most noble profession out there. All right, so I'll go fast, Julia. I believe that you are the CEO of You Inc. There is no one coming to save you, and you are the executive, which means you have to know this stuff. Unfortunately, we're not taught this stuff as kids. We're not taught in school. And by the time we're 25, we're kind of wired of who we're going to be in life. So I gave you a way to think about this, and I want to know who you are. It's important we know who we are and how we think. So my buddy Emmerich just talked about, do you have a poor mindset or do you have a wealthy abundance mindset? And I'll tell you, I have a poor mindset. You're like, how'd this guy get on as a speaker? Well, I will tell you, I have had to build systems around my mindset that's locked in for my upbringing. So we can brag about who was most broke growing up. This was my house for a long time as a kid, but my mom told me we were going on vacation. It was just a vacation that lasted over a year, Emmerich. So that's a 1977 Pontiac Le Mans. So if you all have one, I'm looking to fix one up. But here's the question. If tomorrow, they used to call it Mo money, now it's Bo money, but if Bo were to give each of you $10,000, what would naturally come to your mind? What would you do with that $10,000? Ready, go. Julie, what would you do with it? Ready?
I would put it in the savings account because I would not buy a duplex in Killeen because you scolded me about that the last time I did it.
Okay. So Julia just lied, but what she's saying is she would save that money, right? So her first inclination, there's only 4 things you can do with money. You can invest it, you can give it, you can save it, and you can consume it or spend it. So what I didn't realize about me is I kept making lots of money and I kept going broke. And what I didn't realize is there are 100,000 marketing messages coming at us every single day. And I am not strong enough to ward off all those Ivy League marketing Harvard people like Bo trying to get into my wallet. So I fell for every seminar, every way you can lose money. I figured it out. And the reason why is wealthy people, if they found an extra $10,000, immediately they think, where can I invest that? Where can I invest that? Or 100,000, or it doesn't matter the amount. Next, if they don't have an investment lined up, they'd say, is my emergency fund where it needs to be? Do I have the savings I need to fund the life I've designed? Then they have a giving goal. So the next thing they would do with it is give it. And finally, they would consume it. The challenge I have in most of our poor thinking youth right now, I'm going to segue into this too real quick. This is an epidemic, y'all, and it's in every community. But our young generation right now, the generation is going to have to take care of us old people when we get old, is having a real struggle around money. Housing affordability has never been worse for this generation. Income is not keeping up with inflation. This is a real problem. And the biggest problem of all is they're undereducated. So I've spoken about 8,000 agents at this point, and lovingly, I would say as realtors, we have about a third grade acumen in personal finance. And that's not a shot at us. I think it's the people who are attracted to real estate sales are by our very nature, not the ones going to go study tax law and, how to save money on car insurance or whatever the case is. So if you said I would go spend it, I'd pay off debt, I'm going to go buy a new pair of Jordans, which I don't need because Daniel gave me a pair. If you said consume like I would, then you have what I'm going to say is a lack mindset. And you got to know who you are. I can't change this about myself. I am looking at autotrader.com if Bo gives me an extra 50 grand today. I'm just going to go look and buy a car. So I have to have systems in place because here's the ironic part, not only do poor people think differently than wealthy people, they think the exact opposite. So if you give a poor thinking person $10,000, it's how can I consume it? What can I spend? The sneakers can I buy? What car can I buy? Next, and I grew up Southern Baptist, so I don't want to push my faith on you, but we're Southern Baptist because we hide our drinking, right? So we were taught that if you have any extra money, you're supposed to give it away. So I just gave away all my money. And I thought that's what good poor people did, is they were super generous, until I met billionaires and found out they're way more generous and give way more money than I ever could as a broke person. Finally, if there's any money left over, and there never is, then I would save it. And that's why I don't have any investments, right? As a core thinking person. So in my 20s, I had to learn this about myself, and I had to start building systems. That's what Welcome to the Cause is all about. It's understanding all the different parts of our lives that go into a lifetime of wealth building. I'll give you one crazy stat. Everyone on this call, statistically, will make enough money to be wealthy by the end of their working life, but only 3% of us will make it there. And the reason is not the big bad government. It's not the man keeping us down. It might be the man. His name is Henry Ford, because the average American spends $500,000 on cars, and they make $2.5 million in their lifetime. So just think about that ratio, right? We care so much about impressing others with our wealth that we drive our retirement around our whole life. So I'm going to give you a couple things to think about, and then I'll get off here. As the CEO of You Inc., I'm going to implore you, just pick one of these topics, but you got to get good at least one of these. If I were to draw a circle, Juliet, of where all of our money goes, what you would find is almost a third of it goes to taxes. If you don't know anything about taxes, I read over 1,000 pages of this new bill, and actually it's just a continuation of the old tax bill, but I read over 1,000 pages on. I pulled out the 13 most important topics. Happy to share that with you later, for real estate agents, real estate investors. And you need to know about this. Bonus depreciation, accelerated depreciation as we call it, how to cost segregate a property. You need to know about this for you and your clients. You need to know what qualified business income is. That's going from 20% to 23%. That's a big deal for everyone on this call, right? Unless you make over $5 million a year in profit, it won't apply to you. But there's so much in that tax code that is a huge benefit for everyone on this call, but you got to pay attention. 30% of us in real estate do our own taxes. We're FSBOing our own taxes. Stop it. You're a CEO. By the way, why do we FSBO our own taxes? Because we think from lack. We think it would cost us money to have a professional do it. In reality, having a great professional saves us a bunch of money. Another third of your money in your lifetime is going to go to insurance. So there's a bunch of hacks around that, how to just save enough through your insurance payments to build wealth. But I'll just cut to the chase here, Julia. If you're in your 20s, it's $100 a month to be able to retire with passive income and live the median American household life today. It's $100 a month if you're in your 20s, right? When you get to your 30s, it goes up to $550 a month. So the lesson there is don't wait. But here's the problem. Everyone I teach in their 20s thinks it's too late for them. And I had grace for this group, right? I didn't have $5 coffee to tempt me every day to work. I didn't have a $1,200 magic box with a $200 payment every month. Our economy is changing. everything's going to subscriptions. So when you ask any 25-year-old, could you find an extra $100 a month? They all say yes. When you ask them if they could build wealth, they say no, that's not for us. So I'll leave it on that, Julie, unless you have any questions. But if you want to get a hold of me, I always give out my cell phone number. You all have it anyway. But it's
I'm going to show them how to get a hold of you, Marc. I got a slide. That's how you can hold them.
There you go. Scan me. Scan me. We do a lot of personal coaching. We have a lot of complex stuff. We do a lot of pro bono work for churches and other communities. So just get a hold of me if you have any questions. What I think we bring to the table, Julia, is we have some of the top performing people who have ever done it in real estate, excluding me, and people who are focused on wealth building. And those two blend really well. And real estate's the number one way we build wealth.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I appreciate you joining us tonight. All right. Up next is Marky. If you just tuning in late, because I saw a lot of y'all are still tuning in. Actually, no, I'm not even going to do it justice, because what I learned is don't try to introduce Marky. Let Marky introduce Marky. Yeah. Marky Lemons-Ryle, please introduce yourself and talk to us about why we should buy a home or more.
What's going on, everybody? I'm your girl, Marky Lemons-Ryle, global keynote speaker, 6-time international best-selling author, and the podcast host of Drive with NAR, the podcast of the National Association of Realtors. And one thing came to mind when Marc was speaking.
You see why I didn't try? Do y'all see why I didn't try? Yeah.
One thing that came to mind listening to Marc is you cannot be what you cannot see. I am a proud Chicago 5th generation entrepreneur who birthed a 6th generation entrepreneur. And so my family has been in business here in the city of Chicago ever since 1954. However, if we go back and look at the census tract from 1930s, my great-grandfather owned his home in Indianola, Mississippi. Now, according to my grandfather, they were poor and he had one pair of shoes that had holes in them. But when I talked to people from Indianola, Mississippi, they said, no, them Lemons owned a house. I've never known the Lemons to be poor. Well, my great-grandparents owned their home down in Indianola, Mississippi that my grandfather actually gifted to a cousin who remained in Mississippi. My great-grandparents, they birthed 6 sons. In this picture, one was already deceased, and the 3 in the circle are the 3 that owned Lamb's Barbecue. And my family, these men believed in the power of home ownership, owning commercial real estate, owning residential real estate. And when people were speaking and my boy Emrick called me out, I'm going to be honest with you. I was born and raised in Inglewood, south side of the city of Chicago, off of 59th and State Street. I'm about that life, but there was always money. And it was always money because we always owned real estate. And when I say always owned real estate, and I talk about Lamb's Barbecue, this year my family celebrated 70 years of being in business. We've sold over $100 million in barbecue. We've owned commercial real estate ever since 1954. Parts of 75th Street on the south side of the city of Chicago have now become the honorary James B. Lemons Way, named after my grandfather. And recently we won the James Beard Award in the classic category. The buildings I'm showing you are the buildings that my family has owned. The difference is my parents were the black sheeps of the family. And so my parents were teen, unwedded parents. But the Lemons said, Lemons take care of lemons. And so they took care of me. Oftentimes you would have thought that I was the last of their children. And because they were in business and successful by the time in which I was born, and it was a big gap between me and my siblings, then I got to have everything that they have to give. But let me say this. The money for Lamb's Barbecue on the right came because my grandmother, who was a housekeeper, saved the money. And that's a distinct difference from what I see women of today do. We're very caught up in how we look. And my grandmothers didn't care how they looked. And my grandmothers, when they died early in life, ages 58 and 63, Both of them had titles, deeds, cash, and credit because they saved their money. What I do in life is because of them. I cannot let uneducated women make a sacrifice to send me to college and I don't have nothing to show for it. And when I talk about not having nothing to be able to show for it and the things that we're seeing here, at the age of 24, my grandfather sold me this building. This was 1994. I was 24 years old. I had a mortgage of $41,300. I lived on the third floor. My mother lived on the second floor. My other grandfather lived on the first floor. My cousin Tanya lived in the garden apartment, and I was house hacking. But I used this building as a cash machine. Every single year I was swiping. We were going to take us some money. We was going to do us a cash out refinance. But I'm going to tell you something. This building empowered me. I was a single mother. I had the ability to leave my baby daddy without one consequence on worrying about where I was going to go stay. I was able to pay for my last year of grad school. I was able to provide for my son's needs and his wants as a unwedded mother because of real estate. Real estate provided me freedom, and that I am very clear about. I got to set my own rules, my own regulations, and I didn't have to take no nonsense off of nobody. So if you look at a 24-year-old who's house hacking, right, who's able to put some money in their pocket, and let me be clear, house hacking, we didn't call it house hacking back in 1994. So I've always known the power of ownership. But it's not just that. It's what do you do with that ownership? I was actually reckless with this building. I wish I could go back and get this building right now. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths per unit with a sun porch. Yeah, I was 24 and I was reckless. But that building, as a result, gave me the opportunity as that unwedded mother to send my son to Howard University and not have any student loan debt. Real estate gave me that opportunity. So yes, I paid off my debt from my last year of grad school, and I was able to take him on trips all over the world. And yes, I sent him to his number one college choice because of real estate, because of ownership. And we all want to have the freedom to be able to say no. When Julia and I had a conversation, I told her I do a lot of things to be able to tell people no. It's one thing to earn it. It's another thing to keep it. My ability to keep it allows me to tell people no. I don't do anything I don't want to do. I don't hang with people I don't want to hang with. I don't go to parties I don't feel like going to. I don't care if you don't invite me to the wedding or the baby shower, because that means I don't have to send you a gift. I have 0% of FOMO. Fear of missing out does not bother me. And we were just talking about Henry Ford. I drive a 5-year-old BMW, and I promise you I will not get a new car until my youngest son brings me a degree. Because here's one thing, and I drove a 10. Oh, they were so happy when I got the BMW back in 2019 because I had been driving a Honda Accord. Let me tell you why I was driving a Honda Accord. Because when the foreclosure crisis happened, I financially lost everything. The house I'm living in got about $800,000 in equity. I had to get I lost everything, but I had to get my Mercedes station wagon up out of my husband's name so that he would have the debt to income ratio to be able to qualify to buy the house that has the equity in it. And I was driving the Honda Accord for 10 years, and people had a lot to say. But I tell you what I got in my house. I got a degree from Howard University, and I don't have any student loan debt as a result because of real estate. Well, what are we doing with that money? I believe in passive income. Guess what? I'm still getting some checks from good Keller Williams too. So I believe in the power of passive income.
You why they changed that profit share?
I am why they changed that, because I was getting profit share and residual income at the same identical time. Plus, I get when everybody boycotting, I did not boycott Amazon because I get like 7 checks a month from Amazon between KDP, Amazon merch, Amazon influencer, Amazon creator. So I thought it would be hypocritical of me, right, to make money from them and not buy something from them. But I don't spend as much money from them. So right now, I'm getting all these checks coming in. Like I could really sit here and be cool because I know how to manage my finances. But I took that money and invested it where I invest my time. I believe in innovation. I believe in real estate technology. So I am an investor in Raise, and I have stock over at Shawami. I believe in bartering my time to provide advice in exchange for stock options, right? And so I became an investor now, and I own more than bricks, okay? I have passive sources of income in case, let me tell you why. Aging is an expensive endeavor. I'll be 55 this year, and everything that I do costs more money. What do I mean by that? There was a time that these glasses were just regular glasses. Now today, these glasses are transition. You put a you put a lens in, transition, progressive lens in, your glasses go up. These teeth, never wore braces a day in my life. All of a sudden, I started seeing gaps. Why? Because we shift our teeth and grind them when we sleep. So now I have to wear Invisaligns. The reason I'm investing this money is so that I can age gracefully. And women, if you're not married, you're more likely going to die in poverty. Now, I got me a good husband. I didn't marry rich, but I married right. And so he going to take care of me until I draw my last breath. The way that railroad spousal funded pension plan is going to line up, baby. This is nothing going to but supplement that as long as I don't create any new debt. So now we on the next generation because I got sons that are 11 years apart. This one, 18 colleges, 12 presidential scholarships. But what did I do? I took the time to get him $1,031,000 in merit-based scholarships because we don't need. I can't need, right? Not making this type of money. So we have zero need-based money. Here's where innovation comes in, okay? Which is why this is where I'm investing. These are all the schools that Austin was accepted into. These are all the merit-based scholarships. Down at the bottom, I created my own AI scholarship writer, okay? The ones with no color are the ones we're still waiting on. The ones in green, he already has. The one in red, he did not get. Why? Because who wants to pay for college? Okay, so we have $1,031,000 in funds so that the money that was already invested for his tuition, we get to reinvest that money. Right now, my biggest productivity hack and earning hack, and this is for every person here, is leveraging artificial intelligence. The first 6 months in which I started using it back in 2023 saw a 261% increase in income that led to a 283% increase in earnings. But it goes back to the sacrifices that were made by my great-great-grandfather. And the fact that my grandfather said that lemons take care of lemons. There's no way I'm going to allow my grandfather to take care of me and I not be able to provide in the same manner for my future grandchildren. But there are a couple of things that have to happen. You got to stop spending all your money. You got to get over fear of missing out. And you have to become consistent. The one thing that I've done better than my competitors is I am more consistent. When it comes to podcast episodes, I got 250 of them. When it comes to repurposing content because of technology, you will never act like you don't know what it is that I do for a living. So now we're able to take our money, our passive income. Oh, I love this. And reinvest it.
But
And-
you know that we can't see you. Are you showing slides?
Yeah, you couldn't see the slides?
No.
Oh, well, I don't know why you can't see them because it
You want
says...
slides? Is it me?
I can see him.
Okay, it's me.
Okay. And we're now taking that and reinvesting it. One thing I want to point out, these are my six international best-selling books. Julia, I did what you did back in 2019. I started a podcast. I took the podcast, I repurposed the content into the books, but I also repurposed it into online curriculum, kind of like what you're doing now. I am a Kajabi millionaire. That means in digital downloads, I've made over $1 million in 4 years. All of this money comes to one account. I use one business credit card for everything. I do have a bookkeeper and I have an accountant for the purpose of, guess what? Saving me money on my taxes, because the more you make, it seems like the more you have to give them. But it came with a sacrifice. I've had the opportunity to lose everything twice. The first time in 2000, the second time in the foreclosure crisis. When you lose everything one time and you understand that comeback game, you get okay when it happened the second time, right? I have zero. I don't have the bandwidth to lose it all again because we are reinvesting the money. Real estate can be your everything. And real estate has allowed me to take care of 2 Black educated men on the south side of the city of Chicago and send them to the school of their choice. It can do the same thing for you and your family.
All right, and now is this where we pass the offering around? Friends, it's offering time. She has absolutely gave us a word. Let me share my slide so I can tell you how to get a hold of her. I saw many people in there. They shouted out that you were Delta mom, Marky. They shouted out that they live in Chicago. They said, "Isn't that the AI queen? That's the AI queen. That's her. This is how you get a hold of her, friends." Can you all see my screen? Should be a QR code to get a hold of Marky. I will say this: if you do want to learn about AI, I'm hands down best instructor ever, really, and about AI, I mean that. So if you want to learn about how to use it, especially if you want to learn how to use it in real estate, make sure that you scan that. Go to her Facebook, go to her Instagram, go to her YouTube, go to her podcast. Any of those things, you'll find her on social media because she's a social media marketer. So you'll find her real easy. Thank you, Marky, so much. With that being said, friends, back to our flippers. If you're joining late, I want to talk to you real quickly. We've got Corey. Corey is from my hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Corey is a real estate investor. He has an organization called Legacy Wealth Building. He teaches how to build wealth. He flips luxury properties. Mel has that podcast that just came out 9 days ago with 60,000 views about how she had $500, left her social work job and became a real estate investor. She don't ask nobody for nothing except for the sellers because she's seller finances. She sure ain't asking the bank. So that's Mel. And then, of course, the celebrity realtor, Doug, and Atiya Parson, Dr. Atiya Parson. He calls her Real Estate Blondie. Then, of course, they got a new show coming out. I know now that people drop some comments in the chat, I know who Young Jock is now. So y'all got to share out with Young Jock.
Yay. Going down.
It's going down. Now I know. Now I know. Well, yes, thank you so much for joining us. These wonderful people are going to talk to us a little bit about real estate investing. So I'm going to start with, and we're way behind time, so we'll be brief, but please briefly introduce yourself and how you got into real estate at all.
Anybody?
Yeah. Hey, I'll roll with it. Man, I don't know how we're going to follow Marquis, by the way.
Did I lie?
I told you, man, that was dope, man. She hit all the key points. I'm like, man, can't talk about that. Can't talk about that. That was fire.
Like, time to go.
First person I'm in up. Let's go. So I'll try and be brief. I know we don't have that much time, man. My big interest came when I was doing construction, trying to get out the streets, trying to get out of trouble. Got forced into manual labor. That was good for me, but it got me out the streets. And while I was doing that, we was doing a lot of construction for investors. And I was always an entrepreneur, man. I was the kid that was selling gum in school because school said you couldn't sell gum. So I knew there was a market, man. If I bring that gum, we making that bread. Let's go. So I was always curious. Yo, the drywall guy, how you doing it? The sheetrock guy, how you doing it? Learned it, taught it, was like, I'm going to be really good at that. And then the owners started coming around, the owners of the properties. And I was like, man, what are you doing with this? And they'd be like, man, we're renting it. I'd be like, well, what does that look like? Like, well, I might even sell this. I might flip it. And it dawned on me that, wait a minute, I know what it costs to do these. I know the process to get it done.
My mom was in real estate. She was a realtor, not an investor, but a realtor. So I understood the concept of what it takes to sell a property. And I'm like, man, you bought this for 200 and you're selling it for 400. It only cost you 70 racks to fix it up. I was sold. I was like, man, I got to get in this game. I got to figure out the flip game. Just like people on this call talked about, I got caught up in the foreclosure crisis as well, man. I lost everything. 7 foreclosures, bankruptcy, credit score was trash. Couldn't do nothing. I had to operate on cash. But I built it all the way back to now. I'm the #1 luxury flipper in our market. I literally flip luxury properties. You know, I'm averaging anywhere from 250 to 500,000 a flip. So that means every 3 deals, we are clearing $1 million, and we put that in long-term holds like commercials, stocks. I'm big on stocks, reinvest in our business, keep it going. I take that journey now and tell everybody, get out your own way. I don't care where you at in life. I don't care what has happened to you. You need to look in the mirror and say, I'm at where I'm at because of me. But moving forward, if I want legacy for my friends, my family, everyone around me, the decisions I make right now will lead to that legacy in finance. That's what I do. There you go.
What city are you in? One more time.
Man, I'm with Julia, man. I'm out here in Minnesota.
Okay, Minnesota.
So that's what I got.
I'll jump in, Corey. That was awesome. I mean, for folks who end up seeing, not my podcast, it's the TED Talk. It's so cool because Julia,
I'm saying podcast, but you know what I'm saying.
it's a TED
That's
Talk.
what I mean.
Julia and I, we shared the stage. South Lake Tahoe is amazing. I got into real estate. If you watch that TED Talk, you'll hear a little bit about it. But my family, I used to be a social worker, used to do a lot of humanitarian work, living in a slum in Kolkata, helping people out of sex trafficking, like total not wealthy at all, living on like $1 a day, being a good-hearted person. And my family had a financial crisis. My dad got sick with Alzheimer's, and all of a sudden money mattered. I realized, okay, this generational poverty's got to stop with me. So my dad passed away, quit my job. I had $16,000 to my name, and I didn't have a job, so I couldn't get a bank loan. So that's when I discovered seller financing, and that changed everything for me. And so in 5 years, I bought rental units, and I retired on 6-figure income off of that, and broke the pattern of generational poverty in my own family. And now I teach other people how to do the same thing through my Seller Financing Academy.
That's awesome. So go ahead, Doug. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Oh, is it me?
Is it you?
Oh, okay. Doug Parson. I'm a celebrity realtor here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Blondie, you got to tell a little bit of how you got.
I don't want to take over your time. Okay. So I got into real estate actually when we moved to Atlanta, Georgia. It was a young lady that took us around and she showed us some houses. And at the end of the day, she showed us her home, which was probably an 8,000 square foot mansion, things like that. And she told me at the time, I wasn't into real estate. And at the time she was like, hey, just go to this particular school, get your license, and I'll show you the game. And that's exactly what she did. As soon as I got my license, I was at the mansion every day, seeing how she made her money, doing broker price opinions. That's like appraisals and things like that. So that's how I really got into real estate as a realtor. But if we talk about investing, I know everybody has been touching on that they lost a lot of money, when the market crashed. I actually was an agent that was doing broker price opinions, right? So I was actually getting those properties that people were losing, and they was giving them to me to sell. So at first I was just selling them, and I had people, they were eating them up because the prices was great. So at the end of the day, I kept dealing with them, and at the end of the day, they would buy them, and then they would ask me to sell them, right? So when I get to the table, it looks different from when they bought it, and then now they put some money into it, it's time to sell. So I started seeing their checks, and it was like, I think I'm late for the party. You know what I mean? So that's when I really start investing. So when I started seeing how much my investors was making when they was reselling them, that's when I started buying some of the properties myself and things like that. I've been selling real estate for 25 years. I begged her for 20 years to join me, and now she's killing it. Go ahead, Blondie.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I am Blondie, real estate with Blondie. I'm dual career. That's what I tell everyone. So my first career actually was education. So I've done 25 years in education, everywhere from being a classroom teacher to part of the admin team. And so all this time, though, while Doug was in real estate, I was kind of like his secretary, right? Per se, helping him with real estate and learning from him along the way. So he just kept saying, you're around all those teachers and all that. You need to get your license. But it really wasn't my passion. So I'm the type of person, if I'm not really passionate about it, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to do everyone a disservice. But once I really figured out, once I got licensed and I figured out how to kind of transfer my love of teaching into real estate, into flipping, I mean, here I am. And I love it. So not only do we invest together, so we buy homes, we flip them, but I also work with the top investor in the area who's doing some of the things that we're doing. So basically, once he flips, then I'm able to list and sell his homes and kind of help him along the way. So that's kind of like where we are with the investment and how we got into it.
That's amazing. And how about for people who don't have a lot? They are like, I love what you all are saying. I'm so inspired by all the people talking. I love what everybody's saying, but I don't have any money for this. I don't know the right people. How would the average person get into even beginning to do some of the things you're doing?
Well, I'm not.
Oh, go ahead.
I would say for us, what we always say is, reach out directly to us. We have a website, which is www.bricksandblondie.org. We do one-on-one mentoring. We do group mentoring. We kind of like to meet people where they are. So we kind of like to hear your story. Why do you want to get into real estate? Because I always tell people real estate is how you build legacy, right? So we can pull that equity out of a home. I always say to, you get whatever you're interested in. It might not be flipping. It might be that you need to pull that equity and you have you want to be a chef and you want to open your own side business or something. So it still stems from real estate. So let's see where you are, meet you where you are, and let's come up with a plan and go from there.
One more thing I wanted to mention, even when we talk about people, and building wealth and legacy, it's like a lot of people don't know where to start. So one of our hacks is, we can definitely get people down payment assistance, all type of programs, but they still come and say, well, wow, we got to pay all these closing costs, tens of thousands of dollars. So one of our hacks is, instead of people people always start buying clothes, going on trips, buying cars when they get their tax returns. So we tell them just take 1 year off, use your tax return, and that's how you get to your house. You know what I'm saying? Just don't go on the trip or don't do whatever you was going to do with that tax return.
It'll bring it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just add on to that, I think the best way to build wealth through real estate is through relationships. It's going out there and meeting sellers one-on-one, developing a trusting relationship, and then figuring out what's a win for them and what's a win for you. And somewhere in the middle there's often a Venn diagram of you both winning, and you can structure without using a bank to create wealth within your community. So that's what I would say. I mean, I started with $500 and I did just fine. So it's not about having money capital. It's about having social capital.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say back to your point, Julie, you was asking about, well, what if you don't have any money? So many people focus on, I don't got the money in my pocket right now. I don't got the bread. And people don't realize in the investment space, the money's the easiest thing to come by. People don't believe me, but it's truly the easiest thing to come by. The hardest thing to come by is the deal that makes sense. If you go out there and find the deal that makes sense, you will find a line of people that are willing to throw the bag at you and invest in you where you don't have to come up with any of your own money. So don't let the fear of not having money stop you and think you got to save hundreds of thousands of dollars or 50,000 or 10,000. You can go get a deal right now that makes sense and find the investors. Money is by far the easy thing to find.
Yeah.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that. They have so much information that we need to know. There's questions in the chat about Mel. We want to hear more about what you're saying. First and foremost, listen to her TED Talk, right? That'll give you a good idea about the story. But all of them are sharing this information willingly with everyone. We've dropped their links to them in here. You can use these QR codes in here. But absolutely what they're saying, Doug's got the new show coming out. Also, they have 2 books. This information is readily available to you. I trust you all are getting good information tonight, and you can find all of these people. Everybody is here for the same cause. We are here to help each other build wealth. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to cut you all short.
It's okay.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
quickly, Daniel's going to talk to us a little bit about, he's trying to run be with his family. And that is the way we believe. We do believe God, family, business. So we are, Daniel wants to run and see his kids play sports, but for a couple minutes, he's going to just give you a few quick tips on building financial literacy. The other thing, when I get rid of the slide, it can, you can actually just see Daniel. But when I didn't have the slide up is when that hacker person was in. So I'm not going to do that. You're just going to have to go.
Yeah, that video was wild. I've never seen that on a Zoom, so that was incredible. All right, I'm Daniel. I'm out of Denver. I'm gonna keep it fairly tight so we can catch up on time. I'm the sole owner of Keller Williams Trilogy out here in Aurora, Colorado. I run a mega team. I'm the branch manager of a mortgage company. I have a JV with a title company. Over the last 10 years, we've sold over $1 billion in home sales and loans originated. We've flipped over 40 homes in the last 5 years, made over $2 million in gross revenue. We literally do it all. And I say that to say there's a big education gap inside of our industry on how much money is at stake and how do we really build wealth inside of this industry. When you think about real estate being the biggest pathway to building wealth, and then you look at the amount of real estate agents who are actually wealthy, there's a massive disparity with it. And I think there's a really big educational gap with it. And so a lot of what we've learned, what we've talked about, like I mentioned earlier, I grew up with a single mother of 3 kids. Wealth was a word that we never even knew about. And it's a journey that I've been on and learned about. I've had an incredible coach since I got licensed in this business and realized that this industry is my oyster and I can make anything I want of it. And so I challenge a lot of you on this call that we need to really lean into our education on understanding money, understanding how it works, understanding how it's protected, understanding when invested right, how it grows. And then a lot of one thing that I learned growing up was we don't talk about politics, we don't talk about money, and we don't talk about credit at the dinner table. And I think those things are a challenge with us because we don't share information. And so a lot of full transparency, these last 2 years have been probably the roughest 2 years of my entire life. And I've taken my kids on that journey with me. They haven't just seen the highs. They haven't just seen the wins. They haven't just seen the year after year growth of the businesses. They've seen the challenges and the failures as well. And so I think we need to learn more. We need to grow more. We need to share that information with our youth so we can then go grow and lean into our family. And the last thing I'll leave you with is just with credit. I think that there's so many different credit repair companies, and in our community, we traditionally have bad credit. And I think that credit, we got to look at more like a reputation, right? It takes a lifetime for us to build, and it takes literally a couple of missed payments to completely destroy. So if we could talk about credit, we talk about financial literacy, we talk about the opportunities of growing wealth inside of our community with our kids, I think we can change the trajectory of where our industry grows, where our communities grow, and then also where a lot of minorities inside of this business grows. So, Julia, I told you I'd keep it tight.
Yes, thank you.
I got you.
Also, but don't worry, if you want more of that, Daniel teaches several of the modules in the actual course, and the Color of Real Estate course. And I'm going to give you that QR code momentarily. So he is a wealth of knowledge, and he has a ton of things to say. And what I like about it is that you're very practical. It's very applicable. You can actually hear what you say and take it into action. I think you had stepped away when I told them that you tell me stuff, and half the time I don't know what it means, but I know enough to write it down and go ask somebody. And I've done all the things you told me to do, and he hasn't steered me wrong yet. So friends, you will have an opportunity to learn a lot more from Daniel. Daniel, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, my pleasure, you guys. Cheers, y'all.
All right, friends. Up next, we've got none other than, what are they calling you? $1 Billion Bo? Is that what they're calling you, Bo? $1 Billion Bo? $1 Billion Bo and Anthony Kimble. Friends, if you just logged on, or if you're trying to log on, if you see friends trying to log on, look, tell them people we're not letting nobody in. I don't know who you are. I ain't letting you in. Some people are texting me, my friend so-and-so's trying to get in. Too bad. Nobody's getting in after that. Nobody's getting in because this person keeps coming in as different people and we can't keep it out. So nobody's getting in. If they're not in, they're going to miss it. But I want to tell you, if you did get in and you're joining a little bit late, we have with us Anthony Kimble. And Anthony Kimble is a developer down in Louisiana. Anthony also teaches people. He has also a TED Talk. I know I keep saying podcast, but he has a TED Talk about creating ecosystems through real estate and group economics. He could have been anywhere, Stanford graduate, but he chose to stay right there in his community and continue to build wealth there. And Bo is going to ask him a few questions, interview him for us so that we can learn a bit from the both of you in the next 10 minutes here. They can't talk, y'all. You got to unmute them.
All right, I think we are unmuted. Are we unmuted, Anthony?
I'm unmuted now.
We got our voices back. Anthony is a hard man to silence. It is quite an honor to be able to get a chance to chat with Anthony today. Joe was giving you a little bit about his background, but what I have always so much respected about Anthony is, Julia makes fun of me, but Anthony's humility and his authenticity shine through in everything he does. So I'm going to have an opportunity to just kind of dig into a couple of topics, Anthony. I think one of the things that has been so amazing about your work is that you started really deeply embedded in a specific community in Louisiana. Can you speak a little bit about your decision to move your offices into a community, to do a whole bunch of projects in one community, and to really become part of that community, the good, the bad, and the ugly? And what were some of the benefits of that? And what were some of the challenges of that concentrated place-based investing that you took on?
Yeah. Nice to meet you all. So a lot of my work focuses in South Baton Rouge. And the reason, one of the biggest reasons for that was after I graduated college, I worked in the consulting world, and I was blessed to travel around the country to, these different cities, whether it's Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, Chicago. And, during this time, this was, 2009, 2010, when I entered the corporate world. And what I would see in a lot of these communities that I lived, or these cities that I lived in, was these historically Black neighborhoods near downtown being, gentrified. So when moving back home, one of the reasons I picked the South Baton Rouge neighborhood was historically Black, near downtown, and, also we're looking at the flip side of that. It had many of the scars that these historically Black communities had, whether that was, freeways being built through red, the implications of redlining and Jim Crow era and stuff like that. So with looking at where I live in Louisiana in the South Baton Rouge neighborhood, we saw some of the worst of those eras. One of the reasons I picked the neighborhood was, it had a lot of the things that I saw around the country in these other communities that were being, gentrified or transitioning. So I saw that, and then, understanding this community, understanding Louisiana. But with that being said, those are some of the things that made it really tough. When looking at the 70802 zip code that we work in, you're dealing with some of the poorest folks in this country, in Louisiana, but in turn in this country. So, we face all kind of challenges because of that. And because of these challenges, because of the neighborhood, we always talk about that we're only one seat at the table. To truly, develop these communities, transition these communities, we need the developers, we need philanthropy, we need the business community. I get asked on these panels all the time about, banks investing in like these inner city community. And I always tell people, that's not a question for me. That's a question for the president of these banks. Go have that conversation with him, because that's who controls the money. I don't know if that totally answered all.
Yeah, I got one sort of add on to that. You were very successful student athlete, graduated from Stanford, you played football at Stanford, played professional football. Like, you could have gone a lot of places, and you chose to go back to a place where you're walking rundown single family houses, you're hiring guys off the street corner, you're helping kids get on. Like, you have to get an idea of how Anthony moves in this community. So I'm really interested in your mind. Do you ever have a day where you wake up and you go like, I could be somewhere else doing something else?
Oh, many
and
days.
I've chosen to be here. And what makes you get up the next day and be inspired to do that again?
many days. I have that, and we have, different things that happen in the community that, have, different impacts. But going back to the reasons why is, I always land of not me, then who? um, my relationships and the places I went to school, the relationships I have. I have, two multi-billion-dollar family offices that invest with me. If not me, then who? So it really comes down to purpose for me and having impact and, you know, the impact I'm able to have in this community, based on me being from Baton Rouge, based on my relationships, based on, the money. I always talk, I shouldn't say always, but I've had the conversations amongst my inner circle. Like there's not many people from Baton Rouge that understand South Baton Rouge, that understands the dynamics, that want to be there, that can probably bring $5-6 million into that community as we have. So for me, I was blessed with these opportunities, and I'm truly a believer, in to whom much is given, much is expected. And so for me to do the most and have the most impact with my relationship, my network, this is just where God landed me. And I'm thankful every day for that.
Well, I think it's interesting, you talked a little bit about sports. One of the things I've observed from you is how intentional you are about building relationships and bringing people with you. And you talked a little bit about that. It wasn't just you went back, you brought along with you people in the community, people from outside the community, resources, and you pulled together different pieces that sometimes wouldn't connect to one another otherwise. Can you talk a little bit about the role that teamwork plays in building your company and in building wealth? To what of who you put around you and who's on your team? How should people on this call be thinking about when they think about it?
I mean, with the work we do, and Bo, you guys have similar projects, that to, some of the projects where we're bringing, some commercial back into this neighborhood that, retail may have not been successful for, decades and stuff like that, or, affordable housing deals and stuff like that. The reality of it, is with the community we're working in, is not just a building they will come. It takes real strategy, real partnerships, multiple, different sources in the capital stack to put together the right mix for these things to be feasible and to bring all of these things to the table, whether it's, home funds, CDBG type grants, whether it's, grants from philanthropy, whether it's that pilot that your finance agency is going to provide, whether it's that, low interest line of credit that we need from the area foundation to be able to make this project feasible. That takes relationships, that takes multiple people at the table, and that takes being able to operate as a team. I tell people a lot of times my days feel like herding cattle, but based on the what has happened in these communities over the last 60 years, the de-investment, the freeways being built through them, the redlining and the lack of transactions over the last 20, 30 years. Just doing that typical market rate deal with equity and debt, they don't work in these communities. And as I said earlier, we're also dealing with some of the poorest folks in the country, being that we're in Louisiana and we're the area that we're working in. So team is important. Relationships important. It's important. Having multiple people at the table is important, because the reality of it is, in many instances, that's the only way these deals are feasible.
So sort of shifting gears for a second, Julia talked a little bit about your TED Talk, and your TED Talk is entitled Creating Ecosystems Through Real Estate and Group Economics. And one of the things that's cool, you guys are hearing sort of the purpose and passion side of Anthony today, but he's also engaging with the Earn Your Leisure folks. He's helping young people that are very much on the hype side of this, to those that are sort of on the serious academic side of this. And I think this idea of what is the collective action, and so I'd love to hear a little bit about how you think about group economics and collective action in driving change and overcoming some of those historical things that disconnected people from wealth and from community.
Yeah, the reality is when you look at other communities, they're doing it and they're being successful at it. And that's the reality of it. And, I always tell people, one of the most life-changing and impactful things for me is when I was working at Stanford in the summer working for an asset management company. And one of my tasks was this was early 2000s. So we were going from paper copies of trusts and wills to putting everything digital. So I was the guy, literally my job was scanning all these trusts and wills and stuff in. So I started reading them. And what that did for me was open my eyes up to legacy. How do we empower the next generation? How for many communities, the family structure is the center of the business community. One of the family offices that invest with me, when you go into their office, everybody that works in as a relative. It's nepotism at its finest. So when you see some of these things and you see, what the blueprint, how you empower the next generation, how amongst, your friend circle, we can be friends, but we're also can invest in together. The blueprint is there. It's not rocket science. Many other communities are doing it and having success with it, but you'll go in within our community and the thing will be, you'll hear, oh man, you can't work with friends and family. First of all, a lot of people that say that, they have no basis for that. They've never did it before. And the reality of it, when you look at other communities, that's what they're doing. They're working with friends and family to build generational wealth.
It's interesting. It goes back to, what you see with the Parsons, what you heard from Marc, that the family is a business, right? And are people actually seeing their family and their community as a business? Do you have any specific pieces of advice you would have around how real estate and group economics can be leveraged within our community and how individuals can think about that in their own lives and in their own wealth building journey?
I mean, being willing to work together, being willing to invest together. And I always tell people, one of the biggest things with being willing to say, hey, we're going to figure out how to create, wealth together. It's also realizing that every deal that you do won't be successful. And, there's people, when you look at the tech world, Silicon Valley, there's people that, have 4 to 5 startups before they see any success. And I always tell people, that I partner with, that I invest with, long as that you operate with integrity and you gave this, your all, sometimes it just won't work out. Sometimes, I invested in a drink a couple years ago that literally they made one decision from choosing to be shelf instead of cold storage that totally ruined their business. But would I invest in that guy again? Yes, he had a great idea. Just had one business. He didn't see COVID coming, and literally it destroyed his business. So, I always tell people that being willing to do it, and also going into deals with the understanding that it always won't be this huge success, but learn from it and just don't give up. Being willing to invest or partner with people because that first one didn't work out. Because the reality of it is, a lot of times we go into that first deal not having the experience, not having the know-how to be successful. And the only way to learn those things a lot of times is through experience.
Yeah. And the beauty of moving collectively is that as a whole, you succeed. And I think one of the biggest challenges is this moment that, hey, if we're on our own, any misstep, any failure sets us back completely and we can't recover. But when we move together, we move with a strength that doesn't exist within one. And not only does that make us more powerful, it allows us potentially to be weak for a moment or to fall and to have a group pick us up and move us forward. So thanks for sharing that. Any final thoughts you have, Anthony, that you'd like?
I think I'll add to what you, one learning lessons from the collective and working together is though, and, Bo, one of the reasons I appreciate you and I lean on you and, for mentorship and stuff is a lot of times it's hard for something to be successful when everyone is in startup mode. And I say that to say, I just started doing development. the person I'm bringing in, they just started doing construction. I got my friend that just left the architecture firm and he's running his own. So, we want to, and I tell people a lot of times, just be careful with that, because sometimes having that established, partner, and not having everyone in startup mode, it really can be, put you in a bad position when everyone is, we don't have the capital to maybe float things, because we thought this flip was going to take 8 months and it's now taking a year. So, that's one thing I do, has been a huge lesson learned for me about, collective and, bringing everybody along. Just sometimes when everyone's in startup mode, it's tough.
Cool. Thanks, Anthony. I think you've got in the chat where you can check out Anthony's TED Talk to learn more about what he's doing. You can scan the QR code on the screen right now to connect with him. He's definitely one of my favorite people in real estate. So thank you, Anthony, for joining us and sharing your perspective with us today.
I appreciate y'all having me on.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, take care.
All right, friends, hang in there. You got to hang in there till the end, because there is a super good bonus that I do not want you to miss. So hang in there with me to the end. We don't got much more time, about 20 minutes, I'll say. But if you could just hang on in there. Everybody has mentioned something that LaVacia is going to talk about. They met Doug and Atiya. They're talking about working together, relationships and real estate. Bo and Anthony just talked about community, working together as a family. That's Marc King's motto, is God, family, business. This family conversation just keeps coming up in this wealth building conversation. And I don't think it's on accident. I think there is really a great reason why we keep talking about the family. So again, if you logged on a little bit late, LaVacia is a managing partner at L West Advisors, and she teaches people how to build wealth specifically through something called family offices. LaVacia, what's a family office?
First of all, there is so many things that I can just build upon what everybody talked about today. So I'm just, if the spirit moves me in a different direction, Julie, I just want to give you I just want to apologize ahead of time, because everyone has spoken exactly to what the family office model essentially is. And if you're not familiar with the family office model, it is just like the center, the hub where all of your wealth efforts flow through in an effort to make sure they're working congruently, working together. It's a few points I want to make tonight, a few things I want to build on. But the family office is one thing that we don't know about. But there's so many things we don't know about, and we tend to overlook or underestimate how detrimental not knowing is. And we don't realize that what we don't know can literally kill us in literal sense, and can literally kill our wealth dreams. Marc King, Marquis, Anthony, everyone has mentioned something in reference to what it takes in order to contribute to wealth or to build wealth, whether it is about being a CEO, whether it's about legacy, whether it's about working collaboratively. Everything all is going to add into this family office discussion. So I don't know if I just get to discuss or if I'm going to ask questions, but please let me know.
Discuss. Just tell us what we need to know.
Okay. So when I say what we don't know can literally kill us, I mean that in the most literal sense. An example I always give is my husband is a dog lover. I'm a dog tolerator. And and in order for us to compromise, because we know that's the heartbeat to marriage, right? In order for us to compromise, we can have dogs, okay? But I just ask for one thing. I just don't want to smell dogs. Please don't ever let me smell dogs, or I'm probably going to lose it. So in our compromise, my husband cleans rigorously. Like, he knows that it's just like, hey, I just don't want it to ever smell like dogs. So I don't have to get rid of my dogs because I love my dogs. Me as a biology major, when I see him building his concoction, I'm like, hey, you can't mix those chemicals together because we don't, like, it's not supposed to mix. And him not knowing is like, oh, I can mix this. This is to make sure I disinfect. This is to make sure the odor is taken care of. This is to make sure this and this, until he literally almost passed out because he was spinning and had a headache because he should not have been mixing those chemicals. So when I say what you don't know can kill you, I really mean that literally. But what we are going to realize through our conversation is that most people on this platform that's been speaking today, well, most people, when it comes to established wealth, it's not because they're any different than you. It's either they know something that you don't know, or they did something that you did not know to do. That is the only difference. Wealth is not a result of fate. luck or intelligence. I can promise you that. If that was the case, many people who have luckily came across a vast amount of capital or money would still have it. We see that through lottery winners. We see that through athletes. They don't have it. If it was subject to intelligence, we have all seen people who are book smart, not street smart. They don't use it. So it's not a result of that. It's directly as a result of intent, discipline, and what we've all talked about today, collaboration. What if you guys on here, when I say what you don't know, if you want me to share something with you that probably many people on here know, or what wealthy people know, if you want me to share with you, I got to make sure you're still here. Just say share with me, just drop me in the chat. Me. Okay. Now I'm afraid to share my screen, so I'm just going to say, I think we're safe. I'm not taking no chances. So what I want to do, I just want to make sure everybody's taking notes. Let's start it with this. It is something called the 3-circle model of family business. What those who have established financial foundations, whether you consider that wealthy individuals, organizations, corporations, what they understand is that their family is their God-given team to build wealth. It is clear, and they operate on something called this 3-circle model of family business. What are these 3 circles? I want anybody that's taking notes to draw 3 circles and make sure you intertwine them, like compare and contrast. Draw these 3 circles. This is the first thing. There is a family system that is honored, and that is the priority. This comes down to trust, values, financial sophistication. And I want us to separate the difference between financial literacy and financial sophistication. There is an extreme difference. They tend to only spoon feed us budgeting tactics, credit tactics, things that are what we would consider basics, but they are leaving out the financial sophistication, like when it comes to investing, structuring, legacy planning, asset protection planning, tax planning gets left out of the conversation. So we're talking about financial sophistication. These are open conversations. The training is direct. It's not indirect. It is direct training on how to negotiate, how to invest, how to collaborate, how to raise capital. They are very intentional about this type of training and education. It would end the family. The second circle you want to put is the business system. Remember, we're in the family business. We're either going to build wealth from a family enterprise or the family business, or we're going to build wealth from the business of family. What is the difference? We all collaborate our efforts. What the first generation creates to initiate wealth may not be what the second generation wants to continue with. Everybody has different passions and purposes. Our goal is just to be able to work together. We don't have to work together in the same business. We just have to be in the business of working together. Entrepreneurship is typically at the heartbeat of the business system. Then the third circle, which is most important when we're talking about transferring wealth, is the ownership system. It is very, very clear with estate planning, asset protection planning, corporate structure, and the last one is succession planning. What I want every last one of you to be able to answer on this call today, because I don't care what organized family member you ask that they have established wealth, you can ask them this one question and they're going to have an answer. Who is your successor? If you do not know who is going to take over after you, you are not creating wealth, you're creating chaos. What I love about Marquis is she said, lemons take care of lemons. There is no way that your family should be seeking resources or information outside of their family last name. That's not how wealthy families work. Everything is managed on the inside. There is something called a family balance sheet. On one side, they're going to look at all their assets is their financial capital, their intellectual capital, their social capital, and their human capital. That's the assets on the family balance sheet. On the liability side, it's things outside of their control, but they are going to have the professionals, like Marc King said, professionals are going to save you money, save you hardship, save you chaos. But this is what they bring in, the professionals do, and this is what the family office manages. Anything outside of their control. Economic changes, political administration changes, generations choosing the wrong partners. We can't control who our family chooses to engage in marriage with. We like to. There are some that do, but if we don't have that control yet, we can't control those things. So planning is brought in and managed every day, day in and day out, to make sure it does not put the family wealth at risk. Did y'all catch all of those things? Because I feel like I just shot them right at y'all, because I was so excited because of what everybody just was sharing today about the importance of family being the heartbeat. The family business is what generally is going to drive the opportunity to build wealth. And it is set up in a structure. And I promise you guys, you never have to stress about what your structure can handle. If structure can handle it, you don't stress. Structure gets you a seat at that cap table that Anthony was talking about. Structure is what is going to allow real estate to stay in your family, like Marquis was talking about. Structure is what's going to allow you to be the CEO of your family business that Marc King was talking about. Structure, setting up the structure. So structure eats stress for breakfast, guys. I promise. But let me stop there. Make sure everybody caught that. Let me make sure.
We caught it. And if we didn't catch it, we know how to get a hold of you so we can catch it.
Yes.
This is good work. And also, by the way, she's in the book. She's in the book. Yeah, so all of this information, I got to tell y'all, now I am going to sell the book. I'm going to leave the QR code up there. All of these people have contributed to the conversations and the voices and many, many more. The information when you share there, we have got to keep these conversations going. Everybody you saw in there, I hope you were catching everybody's screenshots, because they have books, they have courses, they have information. We've got to start not just showing up to these things and listening and saying, hey, that was a great talk. I'm getting lots of information from people. Are you all seeing my screen? Okay, I'm getting lots of information and texts and chats from people saying, this was so good. This was so great. I love this. I love this. Bo, do we not hear that all the time when we bring these guests? People always say, oh, I love that. I love that. And then you know what they do with the information? They say, where can we hear more? And we say, every Wednesday, we drop a new podcast with somebody just like this. And you know how many of them show up? We've got to get better at taking action. So that's the idea here. You've got to get better at taking action. They've given you just a smidgen of what we need to know in this short amount of time. Like I said, the whole thing is a package. You could buy the whole package. Or if you're like, Julia, I don't got no $499, you could also just buy the book on that same link. Either way, I want you to get the information. We want to make sure you get the information. I don't know what somebody's saying. Can you all?
Delia, if I may, and I apologize to interject. I think one thing I really want to point out is the education component to being the CEO of your family business. And for that, I did kind of share a link, but I can share another where we did have an educational workshop to teach those about becoming the CEO of their family business.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know what? A couple of people asked me about that when they heard you were coming on. They said, that's what I need to be. That's who I need to be. I need to be the CEO of my family, because nobody else. This morning, my financial advisor, he called me to say, Julia, I'm sorry. I won't be able to be on today. I got to go down. My father is sick. I got to go down and see about him. And I'm the everything. I'm the power of attorney. I'm the this, I'm the that. He's the, he's the person in the family. And thank God for him, because without him, they really would be lost. And so I love what you're saying there. I love what you're sharing there. And I think from your website, we can get more information about how to have a conversation with you about how to become that, because we need to become I think I shared with you all, I just learned about this family office thing a few weeks ago when I met LaVasia. I didn't know anything about it. So I wanted to make sure she came and at least shared the information with you. And like I said from the beginning, sometimes the conversations are conversations that we've never heard before. In our world, we like to say people grow into the conversations around them. Keep reading about it. Keep listening. Keep coming to these kind of conversations. I'm so glad you showed up. You could have been anywhere. But you didn't. The devil even tried to distract us. But no, we stayed the course, and we stayed and got the information because we have got to do better for our families, especially for our generations beneath us. We don't want to leave people with nothing where they have to start over with zero, but also for yourself. Also for yourself. So also, the last thing I want to say is this is just some more steps on how you can, of course, go to the QR code, buy the package. I don't want to spend all the time doing that. I did tell you we're going to get a few things for hanging on till the end, and I want to make good on my promise. The free download workbook. We will send you out an email. Several people asked if we've recorded this, and we'll share it. We will record this and share it. We're going to have, I got some good friends on who are going to edit this thing, okay? So we're going to share it, edit it. The edited version is going to be shared with you, and the download link to your free workbook. Like I said, even if you haven't purchased the book today, which, by the way, the price is normally $6.79. Today it's $4.99. But even if you haven't taken the QR code, taken your screenshot, and purchased this, you're going to get the workbook. And the workbook in itself, the questions that Laveisha is asking you are in the workbook. The questions that Marc was asking you, have you done these things? They're in the workbook. The things that Anthony and Bo were talking about in regards to community and development, they're in the workbook. So even if you don't buy the book, and I hope you do, and even if you don't go to the class, and I hope you do, just the workbook alone is helping to take action, because those are action steps. That's not a listening activity. That's not a reading activity. That's a doing activity. So please, you'll get that for free just because you showed up. And I'm glad you showed up. You're also going to get the first 2 chapters, well, the introduction in chapter 1 of the book. You can at least hear what it's about. Says the book will arrive in 4 to 6 weeks. I hope not. I hope if you've pre-ordered the book, you'll get it next week. I just wanted to under deliver so I could overpromise. Hopefully you'll get it a lot sooner than that if you've already pre-ordered the book. I just wanted to make sure you weren't sitting around thinking it was coming tomorrow. And then the course. The course starts, and again, all this information, 10 modules of this information will be in that course. Here's my bonus. Is Corey still here? I got 2 bonuses for you. Is Corey still on?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So Corey has a community called Legacy Wealth Group, and this thing is growing. In fact, I think I joined it this week. I meant to join it.
Now, yeah, you got to get on there.
I didn't. Oh, so anyways, there's a discount code. He's offering you a discount because you showed up today. It's only for you because you showed up today. So I'm going to give you just a few minutes here to screenshot this code to be a part of Community Legacy Wealth Group. This is also an activity doing group. This is not a come and listen to Corey talk because he's enamored you with his blue eyes. That's not what this is. What this
Not
is,
at all.
Corey's going to help you take action. Actually, I'm going to teach you something. You're going to do something. That's how this game works here. So that's
100%.
first giveaway, 25% off to be a part of that group. I'm going to be a part of it. I hope you're going to be a part of it. And then Mr. President himself, CEO of Welcome to the Cause. If you have your phones still out, grab this one. This is the QR code to get a discovery call. He runs something called Welcome to the Cause. Best class I've ever taken, honestly, 8 Weeks to Wealth. Marc King taught a class called 8 Weeks to Wealth, and every Tuesday for 8 weeks, I got on that class to learn what I needed to know. It was very easy for me to learn and understand. The conversations were not way over my head, but they were up just enough for me to want to reach. So that is something you would want to tap into too. They're going to give you a free coaching session. And trust me, you will not leave that the same. Please, 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 if you have your phones out, grab that. Now, I'm going to thank you. It is 8:01. I kept you a minute longer than I said I would. I'm going to put this back up, and I am. If you want to stay for a couple minutes because you've got a couple questions, if a couple of our guests can stay for just maybe a couple minutes in case you have some questions, we'd love to. We're not going to stay on here all night answering questions. Okay. But if you have a couple questions, feel free to ask them now. I think we've been tracking that in the chat. They probably have already, they are. Thank you, Meryl. I'm so glad you came. They probably have already collected some. What are the questions that we've gotten from the group? And Justin, any questions that we collected? Or if you want to raise your virtual hand, we can have them unmute you. You cannot unmute yourself. See, we thought of all the things. We were like, don't let them talk. Don't let them share. We thought we had thought of all the things. But if you put your hand up, they'll unmute you so you can talk. Go through the bonus again. Okay. Here is Corey's bonus. The code, yes, there is a code. Somebody asked. It's Legacy 25. And then this is Mark King's as well. Nobody has their hand up?
Hey, I do.
Oh, yes.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
Good.
Yes, I would like to thank you for your time, energy, and effort and bringing us all together. This has been phenomenal. And I'm super excited to read the rest of the book. And thank you for pouring into our community. This is Emery.
Thank you.
This is Emery.
And thank you for pouring into our community. And thank you for being my inspiration, huh? Mark King, Mr. President.
Yeah, just real quick. I just wanted to say, I often say Mo Anderson was the best person to ever join Keller Williams. But I'm going to say what you did, Julia, at the largest real estate company in the world when you were there was epic. And we all owe you a great debt of gratitude. And I'm so glad you put this together. Thank you from all of us.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up. And you know what? I appreciate that, Mark. You know what people can do? We can go ahead right here, click this button and buy this book. But no, I appreciate you saying that likewise. And the only reason I was able to have any success at all is because you gave me the space to do it. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Any other thoughts, comments? Maybe you can't answer. Ask questions. Maybe we just have to get it from the chat. I don't see any, but Des has got, yes, please.
Thank you for allowing me some time to speak. My question is for Marc. He mentioned a few things, a few terms from the new tax bills. Was just curious to see if he could drop a couple more of those terms so I could write them down and research them.
Yes, that's just like I paid you to ask. That's perfect. I love it. All right, let me give you a couple of them. I'll give you the section 179. That's going to be your equipment repurchase. We know it is a 6,000 pound collar rule in real estate, unfortunately. But that limit's going up. So reinvest in your business tax-free, 100% bonus depreciation. You can go to section 199 is the QBI, qualified business income. Now, there's a lot to this. You got to work with a professional. You got to be set up as an LLC or a PA, something like that. Taxed as an S Corp, and then pay yourself a W-2. But we literally, this bill gives us a license in this industry to go print wealth. Last thing I'll say is, don't worry about state and local tax, SALT. Go study what it means to be a real estate professional. Not the way we think of it, but the actual IRS designation that your accountant has to sign off on, because that gives you the ability to move passive loss activity, fancy words for accelerated depreciation, paper losses, into active income. So, what the wealthy are doing, and someone just said it so beautifully. I think it was our last speaker, but the reason wealthy people seem to always get richer is they have professionals around them that study all this stuff and make sure you're positioned to take advantage of every tax break you're legally able to take advantage of. So it's the start of your journey, or if it's the start of your journey today, understand this is going to be, wealthy people spend 8 hours a week studying, or 8 hours a month studying this. Broke people spend 0 hours a month. So those are the big three. Standard deductions getting raised for married to $32,600. That's a big deal for all of us on this call. We have a free Facebook group on Fridays. If you want, there's 250 videos on there that talks about all the boring tax stuff. We can geek out on it, or just look me up and we'll talk about it offline.
Thank you so much. And friends, thank you again for showing up tonight. Please, the best thing you could do for any of these speakers is actually take information and take action. Thank you to all of the speakers who showed up. Thank you, Bo. Thank you, Emmerich. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Marc. Thank you, LaBaisha. Thank you, Marky. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you, Julia, for taking something that you've seen, that you've carried through from the early days of that social equity task force to the podcast, to pulling all of us together. Your heart for delivering the information and the journey that you've learned and pulled together to other people is powerful. So thank you for doing this tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Enjoy the game.